Greetings to you! Let us explore the meaning behind the lyrics of Hagridden by Irminsul. In general, the song is a retelling of a Scandinavian legend in which a king is killed by dark magic for abandoning his young wife. Let us begin.
Since the winter in Finland, when I married the daughter of snae, a folish promise to reach out and free. I could not see that my life was in vain. So my wife wanted to witchwife her to curse me. Now the hag has finally found me. All is blurred, fading away. I'm a slave, I'm a slave.
So, the whole song is a creative arrangement of a passage from Ynglinga Saga, which is a literary work by Snorri Sturluson. It was composed in 1225, but is heavily based on even earlier sources from the 9th century. It tells us about a legendary king from the house of Ynglings and his misfortunes. The king, whose name was Vanlandi, traveled to the land of Finns and stayed in the house of one Snae the Old. It was thought that this snae was the personification of snow and winter, which in some sources transformed into a more human-like figure. Vanlandi took a liking to the old man's daughter, whose name was Drifa. He married her, and when it was time for him to return home, he promised Drifa that he would visit her again in 3 years. Kind of a long time, if you ask me, but I'm not a legendary king, so what do I know? We don't know exactly why, but Vanlandi does not keep his promise. Even after 10 years, he did not return to his wife. The situation was further escalated by the fact that Drifa actually had a son by Vanlandi. By this point, the boy was 9 or 10 years of age, and yet he had never seen his father. Before we continue, let me make a side note. The medieval Finnish people had quite a specific reputation back then. They were known as skillful witches and sorcerers, and if anyone wanted to get things done in a magical way, Finnish shamans were the most promising option. So basically, Vanlandi married a daughter of an elemental force from the land of highly skilled witches and then abandoned her with a child. He might have been a good king, but he was not the smartest one. As expected, Drifa hired a witch to either persuade Vanlandi to return or kill him. We will explore what happened next a little bit later, but for now, let us look at Huld the sorceress. Huld is mentioned in several sources as a woman with potent magical abilities. In some literature, she is even described as a mistress of the god Odin and a mother of demigods. Her magic can not only harm, but influence people in other ways as well. So let us move to the next verses to see how it works exactly.
At night she travels the land in moonlight. Is she a creature or a nightmare? This curse will now be my bane. And I say no, I have myself obeyed. Now the end of this nightmare lies before me. Eternal rest awaits. It's time to go, to fade away. I'm a slave, I'm a slave.
Initially, the plan was to just return Vanlandi to Drifa. While the king stayed in Uppsala, a strong urge to visit his wife overcame him. His friends said that it was the magic of the Finns and he should not succumb to it. And so Vanlandi resisted the spell and carried on. That did not end well for him. He became sleepy and decided to take a rest. As soon as his mind slipped away though, he was visited by Mara, the night hag, also known as sleep paralysis. While now we know the true reasons behind sleep paralysis, in the olden days it was attributed to a malicious entity that was said to sit on the body of a sleeping person, preventing them from moving. In cultures that descended from the Indo-European people, this creature was called Mara. The modern word nightmare comes from this very name, and speaking of words, The title of the song, Hagridden, means exactly that, a person upon whom sits or rides a hag, that is, an evil witch-like being. The legend then tells us that Vanlandi's friends tried to lift him up, but each time Mara was stronger. When they tried to lift the king's legs, the hag sat on his head, and when they moved to his head, she would sit on his legs. And just as another side note, yes Vanlandi, you are yourself to blame. Shouldn't have left your wife with a kid. So basically Vanlandi was suffocated and or crushed to death by the night hag. He was buried near the river Skuta or Skutas by his followers, and that was the end of it. Ironically, his son would repeat his father's mistakes and leave his own wife with 2 sons for another woman. He would later die a violent death, and the witch Huld would once again be involved, but that's a whole another story. For now, that's all for the meaning behind the lyrics of Hagridden by Irminsul. All the links to the band are in the description, and thanks for watching.